Universal Robina Corp net income falls by 2% in 2024. We speak with Erwin Lee, President and CEO of URC. We hone in on Live Nation Philippines' Riza Pascua on putting the country front and center on the global touring map. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas expects economic output to hit the lower end of the government's 6 to 8% target for 2025 and 2026. The Bangko Sentral says growth will slow due to global trade uncertainties and high commodity prices. The economy expanded by 5.6% in 2024, missing the government's 6 to 6.5% full-year target. The moderate outlook is also linked to weak services and a decline in agriculture on the fourth quarter GDP in 2024. The Bangko Sentral also said higher commodity prices are expected to dampen economic activity, but its easing policies could help. First quarter GDP data comes out on May 8th. Tycoon Manuel V. Pangilinan and businessman Leandro Leviste are looking for another solar project. This follows their 200 billion peso Terra Solar development set to be the world's largest solar and battery facility. Pangilinan says talks are ongoing for Terra Solar 2, which could possibly be located in Batangas. He also said it may not be as big as the ongoing Terra Solar project, but will span thousands of hectares. The new project will be under SP New Energy Corporation, soon to be renamed MGen Renewable Energy Inc. or M-Green. Last Friday, I spoke with SPNEC CEO Leandro Leviste before the show, and he confirmed steps are underway to integrate M-Green's assets into SPNEC. He also said Meralco has chosen SPNEC to be its platform for future renewable energy projects. For more info, check out Philippine Star online. Topline has set its initial public offering price at 31 centavos per share, targeting proceeds of over 732 million pesos. The Cebu-based fuel retailer says its IPO comprises over 2.3 billion pesos worth of shares. The final price is lower than the initial 38 centavo offer. Topline initially planned to raise 3.16 billion pesos, but later reduced it to 900 million pesos, then 732.6 million pesos. The company says the pricing reflects market conditions while supporting expansion plans. The offer runs from March 24 to 31 with a target listing on April 8. Catch our interview with Topline's president and CEO, Eugene Eric Napasaran Lim, this week. One of the stocks we're tracking this week is Universal Robina Corporation, the food and beverage giant, reporting a 2% decline in net income in 2024. A closer look at URC's chart shows the stock price fell to a 12-year low on February 4th this year. But our technical analyst, Ron Acoba of Trading Edge, tells us what he's seeing on the chart is URC's stock price is poised to mark a rally as it gears to swing from an interim bullish reversal. And a move above its pivot handle at 75 a share would be the trigger. URC shares ended higher by over 2.7% to 74.3 pesos per share at the close of trading on Tuesday. For this Wednesday's session, we're still waiting for the figures to come in. We'll bring you the latest once they arrive. The sugar business dragged Universal Robina Corporation's income down 2% to 12.5 billion pesos in 2024. With us now for more is Erwin Lee, President and CEO of Universal Robina Corporation. Good to see you, Erwin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Cathy. Good to see you too.
Well, before we get to URC's earnings and outlook, how's the transition coming along? And talk to us about how that's happened. You're the first CEO. to come on board that is not from the Gokongwei family, and you're now wanting to ensure that the company grows as a globally competitive enterprise.
Yeah, the transition has been very seamless. It's been well over 6 years now since I took on the helm. We have a very clear understanding of transitioning Universal Robina from a very strong founder-led company into a future sustainable enterprise. And the discussions we've had really with the family, with our chairman, Lance Gokongwei, we're very aligned on what needs to be done and how we really keep the ethos and the spirit of a founder-led company, the boldness, the entrepreneurialism, the speed and agility, and then bring to bear some of the professional practices that can really help us to sustain the enterprise for generations to come.
So the vision is intact, although there's been a lot of challenges down the line. Top line turned out weaker than forecast, Erwin. So what's your strategy this year to turn things around?
Yeah, I think we're looking very much forward to a strong volume recovery, market share recovery. We have demonstrated that in our international markets. Our international markets have grown high single digits, some at double digits. Even in the Philippines, if we look at our 3-4 year compounded annual growth rate, we were able to grow that in the high single digits as well. In the last 2 to 3 years, the whole Philippines, and I would say the region as well, has been beset by very, very high inflation. If you look at cumulative price increases that have been passed through to the consumer, it's probably in the range of 25 to 30%. And that was driven by commodity costs and input costs and supply disruption starting from Russia-Ukraine war, post-COVID and issues and global supply chain disruptions. So many industries have had to deal with that, and we have done the same in pricing and cost savings. We've rebuilt our margins, and now it's time to pivot back to strong volume growth.
And at a time elections are coming, there is the upcoming midterm elections to latch onto. I know that most of your products are bought and given away by candidates during the campaign period. So how much of a boost do you expect the midterm elections will contribute?
Yeah, elections has always been a good lift for us. We're, of course, banking on some of that lift as well this year. But even without that, in typical years, we've got a strong, for example, a ready-to-drink business. We've got the #1 tea brand, C2. That's been growing double digits in the last few years. We expect that and some of our ready-to-drink beverages, water, Great Taste iced coffee, blue flavored water, Vitasoy milk, all of this I think will benefit from this election season, as well as our snack products that are very much, as you say, giveaway products, but also things that really can help the population as they go out, go to vote, and attend a lot of this meeting the advances.
Talk to us about the selective input cost. You made a mention of it earlier, that it continues to be an issue. Do you foresee that some of the commodities might continue to face some inflation pressures? And if so, which ones?
Yes, there are some very select commodities that are continuing to be problematic. If you follow the global commodities, the two that is most watched today that does affect URC is coffee and cocoa. These are issues on supply constraints, and they come from outside of our country. There are some volatilities in others, but you see some mixed bag of cost movements. You've got wheat costs that go into a lot of flour that are moderating, but you've got also palm oil that has come down but is inching back up again. You see some stability in oil and resins, but by and large, I think the most concerning, because there are supply issues associated with them, would be coffee and cocoa.
So comparing domestic and overseas outlooks, as you're very much present in the ASEAN markets, where are you seeing stronger consumer spending happening? Is it here or overseas?
The whole ASEAN region has been affected by similar issues on inflationary pressures on consumers. We are seeing things come back stronger in countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia. Vietnam is still a challenge on macroeconomically, but our businesses have been very strong in all of the ASEAN countries. We've seen high single digit, double digit growth in Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. And it's been a bit more of a drag in the Philippines. But now we're seeing a little bit of a turn. Cautious optimism, sentiments are getting a little bit better with inflation coming down a little bit. A big part of that would be the rice prices. So all of the volumes are starting to turn a little bit better. Probably too early to call a big rebound, but we're seeing some improvement across all of the countries.
The full exit from the Chinese market, how is that coming along? You've made the disclosure last August, seizing both the manufacturing and sales operations in China. And where is the money going? The reallocation of the money that's come from China and possibly into ASEAN and the Philippines.
Yeah, we're very well on track. We've made all the announcements that are necessary in China. We're working with the regulatory authorities, and we're on a wind down situation right now, which we think will entail probably the rest of the year to complete. Those funds, China was not a big operation for us. Nevertheless, we are very focused on repivoting to the ASEAN region, and particularly to our home country in the Philippines. The Philippines constitutes over 70% of our revenue. This is the most important market. It is our core market. And we have some very good businesses that are growing. We've got some businesses that are challenged by a value for money environment. And we are going to be spending a lot of attention back home in the Philippines, continue the momentum, growth momentum we have in the ASEAN region outside the Philippines, and really drive that volume recovery in the Philippines.
Well, we're going to hold on to your cautious optimism, Erwin. I much appreciate the conversation. Erwin Lee, the President and CEO of Universal Robina Corporation. And you're watching Money Talks on One News. Coming right up, a 30-day pause in Russia's attacks in Ukraine's energy facilities. And check out Blue, an advanced robot using Nvidia's AI chip technology. We have these stories and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Russian President Vladimir Putin agrees to a 30-day pause in attacking Ukraine's energy facilities, but declines to support a full month-long ceasefire. The agreement comes after Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump talked over the phone for 2.5 hours. The Kremlin says Putin has already ordered Russian military to stop attacks in Ukrainian energy sites. Putin is defiant in rejecting a ceasefire, believing that it will give time for Kiev to regroup so the war-torn country can fight back against Russian troops advancing in eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expresses support for the limited ceasefire and hopes to speak to Trump about his phone call with Putin.
Ми ж підтримуємо.
We support all steps aimed at the end of the war. We will support them, but in order to support them, we need to understand what exactly we support. When President Trump has time, he is a busy man. When he has time, he can call me anytime. He has my phone number. We are ready to talk through further steps with pleasure.
The chief executive of Nvidia unveils a new line of products to expand his company's AI reign at an event dubbed as, quote, the Super Bowl of AI. Jensen Huang presents a new AI superchip called Rubin, offering 3 times more computing capabilities than other chips. Huang also announces Nvidia's partnership with General Motors to provide technology for its self-driving cars. Nvidia is teaming up as well with Disney and Google's DeepMind to develop Newton, an open-source extensible physics engine to advance robot learning and development. See that robot on stage with Huang? That's Blue, which was made possible with Newton. And despite these advancements, Nvidia shares dropped yesterday, Tuesday, by over 3%. Analysts are saying Huang's presentation failed to reassure investors. Let's take a look at how the global markets have performed. The U.S. indexes have fallen on Tuesday, with the Nasdaq leading those losses. The index declined 1.7%, with Tesla and Nvidia dragging the Nasdaq lower. Shares of Elon Musk's company down by over 5%. Meanwhile, the Dow shed over 0.5%, and the S&P 500 fell by over 1%. Treasury yields also inched lower, settling at 4.28%. But gold prices rose a 6th straight session and hit another record high to over $3,000 per troy ounce. Let's have a look at the futures market. U.S. futures indicating markets will open up this Wednesday, later tonight in Manila time, just before the Fed makes a decision. The Dow and the S&P are up about 0.2%, and the Nasdaq gains by nearly 0.4%. As for the Asian markets, they've opened this Wednesday mixed. Investors are keeping an eye on today's decision by the Bank of Japan. Australia's ASX 200 down by 31%. South Korea's Kospi up by 0.7%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 rising by about 1/3% before the BOJ rate policy decision. Have a quick check on the Philippine markets and see how they're trading. The PSEI down in the first 4 minutes of trading by about 0.25% at 6,268. We're well below the 6,300 mark in the first 48 minutes of trading. The stock market declined on Tuesday by 1/3%. As for the Philippine peso, it's opened this Wednesday stronger, 57.25 to the dollar. The peso closed slightly up on Tuesday at 57.295 against the greenback. And with us now for more is Ariel Santos, equity analyst at Regina Capital Development Corp. So good to have you with us, Ariel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So what do you think? Is the Fed going to move or not, and why?
I think the street is widely expecting the Fed to keep its interest rate steady at around 4.25% to 4.5. But I think the main event for today, for today is on the statements that will be provided by Powell, because recently he has emphasized that they are not in a hurry with regards to altering the benchmark rates, primarily because they are still expecting the inflation to remain elevated, partly due to the potential tariff risk from the current administration. So I think that the Fed could signal even fewer rate cuts than initially priced in by the market. So I think while a rate cut in June or on the later half of the year is expected, any shift in projections could potentially drive volatility across the global markets. But for your question, I think that temporarily they will keep the interest rate steady.
Right, it's really going to be a juggling act, a balancing act, if you will, between communicating the view on the U.S. economy and also on the impact of Trump's trade policy. So how do you think the Banco Central will decide when it meets next on April 11th?
Well, suppose that the Fed will keep the benchmark rate steady. I think that the BSP will likely do the same because if you're going to look at it, if they were to cut the interest rate soon, it might put some weight on the Philippine peso and thus triggering some capital outflows. So I think that the BSP still has room to ease our own benchmark rates sometime, on the latter half of the year, but still the timing will depend on inflation stability.
Right, we got 30 seconds. Ariel, where do we park our money then?
I'm sorry.
Where do we park our money in the meantime?
In the meantime, I think that if we're talking about stocks, I think it would be ideal if we're going to park our money in, what do you call this? In banking sector and defensive sectors like the utilities, primarily because they offer much more stability than the other sectors like the property and consumer discretionaries.
Got that. Stay safe in equities in the meantime in the volatile environment. Thank you so much. Ariel Santos of Regina Capital and Development Corp joining us. Coming right up.
When she was just a girl, she expected the world. Flew away from
In
her
the touring map of international artists, we speak to Live Nation Philippines' Riza Pascua after the break. Keep it here on Money Talks on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Leading live entertainment company Live Nation launched Live Nation Philippines 3 years ago through the strategic acquisition of Music Management International. With us now is Live Nation Philippines Managing Director, Riza Pascua. Good to see you, Riza, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You're just coming up to 3 years in your leadership at
Yes.
Live Nation Philippines. It seems
Yes.
like yesterday, but it's nearly 3 years.
Yes, time
were
flies.
the key milestones in those years?
Okay, so we have. I'm extremely blessed to know that we have sold 615,317 tickets. We've done 111 shows, and 89% of the shows were sold out.
Wow. And compared to MMI, because that's like there's a 30-year history there, does that exceed previous ticket sales, and does it exceed your own expectations?
Actually, yes, because the past 3 years we've been doing shows maybe, I'd say, almost weekly. Yeah.
Which ones are your
After the
favorite?
pandemic.
Yeah, after the pandemic, the hardest gets, the ones that come to you as a sort of maybe a conquest that you got them to come here in the Philippines. Which ones come to mind?
U2. That was on my bucket list. Coldplay was on my bucket list. Madonna was too. So, yeah. But most recently, Coldplay.
All right. Well, it probably takes a lot of convincing the promoters, the managers, talents, to have them come over here in the Philippines and not just make a stopover, a pit stop maybe in Singapore, maybe an ASEAN country, neighboring the Philippines. How do you convince them? What do you actually come to them with that would make them want to come and visit us, make a pit stop here in the Philippines?
Maybe in the past, I'd say 20 years, Philippines has been on their list. But before that, it would take a lot of convincing. I would come to their office and show the map, show them where the Philippines is, and Manila's right here. We're safe, and yeah, that's how I did it until one by one they started saying yes.
It really is. It's just security that they're worried about?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes,
And
they were. They
They
were.
were. And what kind of changed?
I don't know. I guess when the big acts started coming, and they spread the word that it was okay to come after all.
Right, Lady Gaga's coming in May, but I see that she's got 4 shows in Singapore. Are there any
And that's it.
discussions? That's it. I mean, have you
Yeah.
tried to establish negotiations perhaps with the promoter,
Yeah,
with Lady
wanted
Gaga's
to.
team?
We wanted to. I know myself and a lot of other managing directors in Asia wanted Lady Gaga to go to their territories, but she only had time for Singapore.
All right, but we got SB19, and it
Oh,
got
yeah,
sold
yeah,
out
yeah. Oh,
in
my
7
gosh.
hours.
Yes.
What was that like? So
I'm
that's
so happy about that.
the mainstay of Live Nation Philippines. This is about you promoting Filipino talent.
Yes, and we're doing a world tour as well. We're looking at having them do festivals in the U.S. also. So I'm very, very, very excited about that. I waited for a long time to work with a Filipino artist.
It's well worth the wait. Thank you so much for joining us, Riza.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
Riza Pascua joining us of Live Nation Philippines. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. here on One News. We're also streamed live on YouTube and on our Facebook channels. Have a great day ahead.